one viewer who has gone away very quickly, but it doesn't matter because eventually somebody will view my streams. Others have been complaining that their viewers have decreased in number because of the AI generated slop that has started channels. I think people prefer a more interactive conversation. Obviously, I'm here to respond to any questions in the live chat. Sometimes I may not look at the chat often enough, but I think if you hang around for long enough, I will get round to dealing with your questions. And on this occasion, I do particularly want to answer questions by people to make use of the interactive feature of YouTube. Whatever the different innovations so far on social media, I think YouTube is still the best in providing features for a more satisfying communication experience. So today I want to talk about how many solutions, even apparently complicated political questions, are in theory quite simple. So what prevents people from adopting these simple solutions? And the answer is in the thumbnail that I have posted about this distended human body with the enormous head, who is depicted in the thumbnail as looking skywards, with a very thin neck, clearly incapable of supporting the weight of the head. So it's placed on a wagon, and the wagon is being pulled by a man with not a very good view of the things around him because he's looking skywards. From this, you can deduce that people who are motivated by reasons of pride are not having the best view of their social and political environment, and therefore look to irrelevant reasons to support their actions. And this can be dangerous when you are a leader of an empire, as America is. Trump has been very disappointing, but I suppose it is no surprise that yet another American president has campaigned for peace before he became president, and once he became president, he starts yet more wars. But then America is an empire, and empires are acquired by war and maintained by successful imperialism. So expansionism is not necessarily the recipe for eternal success. Successful empires maintain their existence by picking their fights carefully, knowing when to stop, consolidating their positions, making sure everyone is on board with their imperial ambitions, especially those whom they have just conquered. It takes a long time. You really need to get people on board, and you can't hurry them, or you can hurry them, but through mostly peaceful means. So they think you are, a superior nation who deserves to conquer them and keep them under your wing by having a superior system of administration, and to make them feel that things are better now after they have been conquered than previously. So this requires a degree of understanding and humility and knowing your own limits. And I suppose America can now be likened to a serial killer who has now formed the urge to kill again. And this gives the killer in question a kind of high when preparation for war or mass murder or serial killing becomes all pervasive, all encouraging, all encompassing to the consciousness, and it gives, I guess, the perpetrator kind of temporary high to distract him from the boring, the pedestrian concerns of maintenance. Maintenance is boring. It's housekeeping, really. It's cleaning and renovating, and people don't like doing it. They want, they want their castles in the air, their dreams, their excitement, and maintenance is not really for shallow people who don't care about these things. I'm sure any person who is in the occupation of inspecting and scrutiny and standards and compliance will agree with me. It's not considered a glamorous job at all. Living the dream is asking me if I ever take a break from global domination. Well, I don't think of myself as being some kind of global hegemon. All I ever think about is how much better it would be if the principles I recommend were actually followed. And I see no reason why they shouldn't be followed. I think they make sense. It's just that almost everyone is mad, dishonest, evil, or stupid. Actually not capable of understanding what I'm saying, or having an interest in denying what I'm saying, because I guess they don't want to admit that they are wrong, or that their parents were wrong, or their grandparents were wrong, or their ancestors going all the way back to the creation of Christianity was wrong. But really, it's very simple. If you're going to believe in God, you should choose the most powerful God conceivable, of whom there is only one, the Abrahamic God. You would know, if you listen to me regularly, that there are only two messages from God to humanity in the Torah and the Quran. The New Testament doesn't count because, well, not even Christians claim they come from God. So there you are. There's only two, and I'm saying even if you're Jewish, you would have to choose Sharia, because A, Jews haven't lived in their theocracy for 2,000 years, and B, Even Jews would want an afterlife described vividly as a Quran does. Which is not to say they have to give up their Jewish identity, they just have to choose Sharia. That's all they have to choose. It's not saying, if I choose Sharia, I have to give up my Roman Catholicism or my Judaism or my Taoism or Hinduism or Buddhism. Not at all. I've emphasized so many times that secular Koranism is not a religion, it's not a belief system, it doesn't care what you believe. And in fact, Muslims don't like it, which is actually another feature that should delight Islamophobes. Because what I'm telling Muslims is that my interpretation of the Quran is better than theirs. And I am prepared to put it at the disposal of Western governments, if only they were capable of acknowledging my contribution, or even just asking an intelligent question instead of pretending I'm not there and I'm somebody who has to be ignored. Interestingly, no one wants to properly engage with me, so I only deal with morons and anti-Semites and Islamophobes or Jews who still don't get what I'm trying to do. So what are the problems people in general feel? I mean, it's because they don't trust their government. Their government is obviously crazy, stupid, or evil and wants to start a world war. So, and they don't know what to do. And I'm saying, I have the answer. And I suppose their problem is that they don't think, even if I do have the correct solutions, I would be hurt. But I'm saying it's not that hard to do what I ask. And I do understand that a lot of people probably secretly agree with me. They just don't think anybody is going to support my idea or agree with me. But the problem, as I see it, is attitudinal. People have an attitude of hopelessness, of apathy, and fear, because they don't, they're too afraid even of discussing ideas with their nearest and dearest. And I know for a fact that lots of white people don't even talk about politics with each other in real life. They all come on social media talking to strangers that they know they'll never meet, and therefore they only use social media as a means of trauma dumping and not, in fact, political activism. So this is the second problem. The first problem is they don't want to admit that they're wrong. And the second one is that they fear to think the thoughts or speak the thoughts or do the thing that would actually effect change. And my role is to say that it is actually quite easy to effect change in your own life if only you dare to discuss politics with people in your life. I also understand that most people are isolated. They probably live alone. They don't trust themselves to persuade anyone. The friendless, they don't have anyone that in their life that they trust to listen to them politely without accusing them or denigrating them, etc. And I'm saying, okay, so what if somebody has a political disagreement with you, even if they're close members of your family, your spouse, your lover, your parents, your children, so bloody what? Are they expecting anyone to agree with them either? So I think instead of congregating on social media and saying ow, because that's what they do really, they only come here to say ow, they don't come here to propose any solutions. I actually don't know of anyone proposing a solution. So late last night, I was talking to a woman called Wren Cobb, and all she does is go, well, I don't know if she genuinely doesn't understand what I'm saying or affects not to. So she complains about immigrants, and she wants me to say that they've got to go home. I have based my political activism on getting to know people who have a problem with immigration, and I am known to the anti-immigration parties who don't want to talk to me because I'm telling them that their method of carry on voting, asking people to vote for them, will result in failure because nobody believes that they will actually do anything. So back to my my three characteristics. So what I'm proposing is legal, peaceful, and easy, because I know that if it's illegal, I'm going to get into trouble. If it's not peaceful, then well, legal is peaceful, isn't it? Really, but hate speech. Well, hate speech is not. Anyway, there is some sort of category distinction between what is actually legal and what is. I mean, you can go on a demo that is in effect that could be legal, but people don't really want to go on demos. They end up getting into trouble with the police. So I'm not asking anybody to go on any demo. I'm asking them to basically talk to people in their lives about politics, about what they think is wrong, what they think could solve the problem, and all I'm asking them to do is ask each other at their barbecues, as it is summer, or anyone who will listen, what they think is the nature and purpose of a religion. So it's a nice sort of general dinner party topic, even if you're not a dinner party kind of person because you're a pleb. The idea is that if you want to talk about something serious, you could discuss a general topic like the nature and purpose of religion. You leave it open. You don't tell people what to think. You could, if you're skilled like me, guide them to the conclusion that you want to guide them to by unobtrusive questioning. So it's not that hard. It's just that people won't do it because A, they're mostly atheist. B, they're genuinely not used to having these conversations with anybody. C, they're probably afraid of the answer because I guess looking at my avatar, you know where this is all heading. But with what's going on in the Middle East, it just wouldn't be out of place, right? So what's going on in Israel is that it is a religious conflict when you think about it. Israel is an American is an American colony run under the principles of Christian Zionism. People don't realize that because, the anti-Semites will say that Israel runs America. But of course, it's not true. And there's so much evidence to show it's not true when Jews don't even have a leader. They don't have a chief rabbi. No, you can't even call... Okay, the chief rabbi is not a Jewish title. It's a title given to Jews by gentile imperialists. And the purpose of giving any rabbi this role is so that this rabbi can collect taxes from his fellow Jews. So Jews do not like anyone called a chief rabbi because it means that this person called a chief rabbi is an appointee of a gentile empire who has appointed this rabbi to collect taxes from them, and how it used to be done would be as long as you collect X amount of taxes from your people, the rest of it is yours. Got it, Rabbi? That was how it used to be. So you will find that Orthodox Jews do not give any rabbi called a chief rabbi any respect, particularly the Haredim. So this is something you have to understand about Jews. They do not have a religious leader. They do not have a rabbinical equivalent of the Pope, because actually the very divided, having been scattered to the world, there are these Ashkenazi Jews, and then there's the Sephardi Jews and the Mizrahi Jews, and they're not agreed on who should be leader. So in effect, they do not have a leader. But what about the secular Jews? You can have, famous secular Jews like George Soros and, controversial, unpopular people. I mean, basically, these Jews do not have a leader. And this is so important to understand, but people don't, because a lot of anti-Semites like their narrative that Jews control everything, which is why they hate them, and they don't want to admit either that they've been wrong for decades, if not generations or centuries. So it's these people not wanting to admit that they're wrong. And as for Muslims, boy oh boy, they have not been following their religious principles. I mean, just understand that most Muslims do not read the Quran. They might think they read the Quran in the sense that they might know, as a non-Arabic speaker, how to pronounce the Quran in Arabic without actually knowing what the hell it means. So you will have to understand that most Muslims have not read the Quran. So, and functionally, they are as ignorant as Christians who don't read the New Testament. Not that it would help these Christians if they read the New Testament, because it doesn't really say anything. The issue, if you believe in God, is the sin of idolatry. So, I mean, obviously, if you're an atheist, you don't care about these things. You think it's just as stupid to worship a god as it is to worship many gods, and you won't care. And I am absolutely sure that these people who claim to be Christians just don't care. They only care about not having to admit that they're wrong to be Christian, because it's their cultural affiliation. So they think of, mum and dad as being Catholic or Anglican or whatever, and they don't want to admit that mum and dad or grandma and grandpa or and their great grandparents are wrong. So they're going to be a little sticky on acknowledging the oneness of God, even though they can't actually defend the threeness of God. They can't defend the Trinity. Or if you meet the occasional Christian who uses, big words like hypostasis and mentality and big words like that. The thing is, they convince no one because the disinterested, objective bystander wouldn't know what the hell they were talking about. But obviously, if they were Christian, they'd want Christianity to win. But I'm saying, if you accept that the Abrahamic God who created the universe and forbade idolatry and blasphemy exists, then you would have to accept that consequences follow when you break his commandments. It's really that simple. And if you don't accept that, then you must be a hypocrite and an atheist, and you're only pretending to be Christian, and therefore your opinion on these matters should be ignored and dismissed, leaving the ideological battle between Jews and Muslims, and that's it. So if Jews do not even want a Torah theocracy with its 36 capital offences, then I'm afraid they'll just have to stand aside and let Muslims win the argument with their Sharia, which is not to say that non-Muslims would be, in effect, asking Muslims from Saudi or Pakistan or wherever to interpret and apply Quranic principles for them. Not at all. That is basically secular Koranism saying that's not going to happen. And I think enough people understand that because of the hatred of most Muslims for secular Koranism. Because what I'm saying is that these Muslims have misinterpreted their Quran for centuries, and that's why they appear to be the eternal victims of Western imperialism. Right, so I have managed to say what I wanted to say in half an hour, so I'll quit while I'm ahead. Dr. Mengele asks, says China, Russia, Pakistan, and North Korea have offered Iran support. Quite right too, because America is a rogue nation, starting wars everywhere. I mean, since it's realised that it can't win in Ukraine, it thought it'd try and win against weaker Iran. And I think if potential victims of Western imperialism know what's coming, they would have to unite against America, because, I mean, imagine being stuck in the same room with a mad dog or a mad person. I mean, if you had other sane people in the room, you'd try your best to try and cooperate with them to eject or control this mad person in the room that you unfortunately have to share with. So I'm afraid America's behavior is going to make its decline more likely, rather like a jealous lover looking for betrayal and infidelity in every move that their lover lover or spouse makes. It is annoying to be accused, annoying to be bossed around. So unfortunately, because the West is still clinging to its Christian identity, it's going to continue its practice of self-harm. If you can't admit you're wrong, and you keep doubling down on your wrongness and the speed with which you are heading towards the edge of the cliff, then you're going to make everyone nervous, and you're not going to remain in power or in government for very long. And so these are the things that I hope people will discuss with each other, not on the internet, but in real life, about the nature and purpose of religion, which is really to do with being commonsensical. That is really what it is. You're behaving in a reasonable way. You're basing your arguments on truth. You don't want to be censored for exercising logic and speaking the truth. And if you are living in a society whose government is punishing you just for speaking what is obviously true and arguing for what is logical, then you're in trouble, and you need to do something about it, and you need to demand that the people around you, particularly your family and friendship circle, you should be asking them what they propose to do about it. And if they can't give you a sensible answer, then you will know what to think about them. Howard, not quite sure what you mean. It's the opposite of that. Opposite of what? Not that they won't admit that they are wrong, but they cannot accept that they were right all along. I think you need to say what you just said again, because it doesn't make sense to me. Are you saying that the founding fathers were right all along? Well, I would agree with that. I'll give you a few minutes to clarify what you just said. Right, so you're saying that the founding fathers who rejected the institution of monarchy and the church were right all along. Yes, you know, there is this hideous irony about Americans not understanding their own history. It's so tragic. And so this is what has basically happened. The founding fathers rejected monarchy, and in order to reject monarchy, they had to separate the church from their state. And now, 21st century Americans now seem to want a monarch. But monarchy has not worked in Europe, has it? It stopped working in Europe in 1918 when 3 kings in Austria, Germany, and Russia were terminated, 2 by abdication and the 3rd by regicide. But for some reason, no Western historian has pointed this out. Perhaps, I think it must be the power of the English language preventing this event from being more widely discussed, and probably a sense of, well, apart from the British Crown, there are still a few European monarchies dotted here and there. But really, the problem is this. I don't know what to say. Mean things about monarchies. I too had. I too read fairy tales about kingdoms with kings and queens and princes and princesses and all that sort of thing. And I know there is a residual affection and sentimentality for all that sort of thing, but to keep such an institution around just for reasons of nostalgia and sentimentality is dangerous. It is dangerous not to understand the last 250 years of your history, which is but a series of attempts to rid your society of the oppression of absolute monarchy. And the British, of all people, should understand that they do not have a written constitution. With a monarch, it is not possible to have a proper constitution, because the whole point of a monarch is that he is above the law. Do you understand? So the founding fathers, by rejecting monarchy, said, right, we have an alternative system of the leader of our country, of our republic, being subject to certain laws. He can be impeached if he is guilty of high crimes and misdemeanors. He's not going to be above the law because he's not a monarch, and that is so important, and nobody gets it. I can't get over the fact that nobody gets it and nobody cares. And there are all these Americans complaining about their government and they don't get it. There are all these Britons complaining about their government and they still don't understand. Maybe it's because I'm not talking to any lawyers. But where are these lawyers who should be capable of understanding the points I'm making? I guess they won't be seen dead discussing anything with me, I guess. So thank you, Howard, for your supportive comments. I don't understand what you mean about free will. As far as I know, Jews, Christians, and Muslims understand and accept the existence of free will. They also accept the concept of predestination, but it's fine. It's like, if God exists and knows everything, then he knows what we're going to choose. But we don't, so that's okay. We can still think we have free will even though we don't, and we can still make decisions based on our ability to decide to make decisions, to do or not do stuff, or believe or not believe. We are still in theory capable of making decisions. So I just don't understand what the problem is. And if it turns out to be wrong, and if you believe in God, then God knew all along, how we were going to choose. But it still doesn't take away from us our moral agency. So these pointless arguments about, whether one is completely true and the other is not necessary, because the whole point of having all these laws is so we can choose to obey them and not obey them, and depending on how well we show that we understand the difference between good and evil in theory and in practice, we go to the better place in the afterlife if we believe in that sort of thing. So it's really simple. I've simplified it for you, but I guess many of you will prefer the murky and complicated version. So free will, of course, we have to believe that we have free will in order to choose whether or not to obey God's laws as we understand them. And once we decide to obey these laws, we have to choose which version. And I'm saying, obviously, choose the easier version of universal applicability and not the one for Jews with its 36 capital offenses. What's wrong with people? Howard goes on to say the Bible says love your enemy, but not try to understand the enemy. We made that mistake. Well, love your enemy. This is what Jesus said, right? This is a Christian thing. To the extent that a Jew or a Muslim can say, empathize with our enemy in order to make a friend of them, that's also a sensible move, isn't it? So if we are capable of understanding why people don't agree with us, and they don't, do they? You can understand the reasons of culture, of class, of all kinds of reasons. It's not that hard to work out why people might not want to agree with us if we ask for a thing that is inconvenient for them. And that is why we need a religion that says we have to love our neighbor. We have to understand where he's coming from and why he might think and do certain things, and maybe imagine ourselves in his position. So this is really what is required, a bit of imagination. Howard says we must tell ourselves that the enemy has a good reason. We must not tell ourselves that the enemy has a good reason for the things he does. We must not believe we need good reasons for the things we want. We are good. The enemy is bad. No. If you understand why a hungry man might steal food, well, I don't see the harm of that. But then you could think a step further and think, why is he hungry? Is it because he's lazy, or because there are no jobs? You have to think in terms of public policy. They don't act because of reasons. They act according to their nature. They have free will and do the things they do deliberately. Well, if you had a national religion in America, said Americans now have a system of belief that that is to do with the Abrahamic God, right? That I think shouldn't be that controversial in the sense that if you're going to believe in a deity, you should believe in the most powerful one. And so many people in the world still claim to believe in the Abrahamic God. So what's a problem? And once you agree on this principle, then everything follows that, if such a being made laws, then we should follow it. But also, he gave us free will, so we mustn't be mean to people who are atheists or agnostics, or who who aren't true believers. And that's the First Amendment. So there's nothing new there. And then after that, it should be, well, where did we go wrong? And then you go to the no-hide laws. Was there something fundamentally incomplete about the American Revolution because the founding fathers didn't impose Sharia formally? But I think there are many clues that you can find in the Declaration of Independence, because on the one hand it does talk, it does implicitly refer to a creator and unalienable rights. What are rights that are unalienable? They would be our freedom in our minds to hold the opinions that we hold, and hopefully the right we have to express them even if we're wrong. And that pertains to the First Amendment, supported by Chapter 2, verse 256. Which holy book supports the First Amendment? The Quran. Why not use that as your constitution? That should be the real discussion, which sadly so many Americans are too Islamophobic to do. Perhaps it's because they're not frightened enough to discuss these things, but maybe the goings on in the Middle East might help towards Americans being more prepared to discuss what laws they should follow and what rules of behavior their ruling classes should adhere to. Thank you for your attention.